boost your data analysis with Data.Table in R. Let's discuss about this amazing library for our data analysis. Why to use Data.Table in R? Let's talk about the business application where to use Data.Table and why we should add it to our toolbox. As you know, R is a very powerful language for the analysis. Therefore, Data.Table is a package that's going to extend our capabilities for handling and manipulating data efficiently. In this tutorial, we'll explore how to use Data.Table to perform data analysis in a business application. Let's talk about this and more now. Why to use Data.Table in R? Among certain advantages of Data.Table, we have the speed. Data.Table is designed for fast data manipulations and make it ideal for working with large datasets, as we will discuss. Concise syntax. Data.Table needs fewer lines of code compared to base R and other manipulating packages as tidyverse. Memory efficiency. Data.Table use memory efficiently and minimize data copying, as you know. Parallelism. Data.Table supports parallel processing. That means that we can significantly speed up operations on multi-core processors. Let's dive into practical examples now. We're going to reproduce our data in order that you can use it to follow the example. As you can see here, we have among certain variables, some that are categoricals and numerical variables as well. And when you can see, we're going to use the index, in this case, an identifier for our customers or our employees, as in this case. As you can see here, we can set now a key. This one is going to help us for faster operations. Right here, we're going to order our data by ID from now. That's how we can establish from now a key in our data table. Okay, but how different this can be from a data frame? As you can see, it's look identical, the same definition. Well, you can see when we display it, it's look the same too. This is the same format than a data frame. However, if you remember, when you print all your data in R, you will have all your data right here printed. But with Data.Table, you just can see the head and the tail. So you can see we have the first line as well as the last 5 lines of code without saying anything else to Data.Table. That's one point in its favor. And also you can see we have an identifier here as our index as well. Reading data, in this case, it is an important example I mentioned before. As you can see, we are going to use the function fread. This function is going to help us to speed up our data reading. In this case, as you can see, we have more than 200,000 lines in our data. And to compare, why we don't use read CSV as usual? Well, we're going to use the library microbenchmark to compare the times comparisons in these two functions. Now you can see here, I'm going to read the data with the typical read CSV, and I'm going to use fread from the data table, and we're going to use it 10 times to compare the average. And once it's done, and you can see here, the mean time for reading our more than 200,000 lines of information was shorter or way shorter if we using fread, only 19 milliseconds on average. And the contrary, read CSV took more than 300 milliseconds. This cannot be the big deal if we talk about milliseconds, but think about when we are talking about millions of rows of information. And for displaying this one in a better way, look at our plot we have here. So as you can see, using Data.Table for reading files is a big step in our data analysis. Now, let's say we want to discuss the data exploration. Well, what is the typical syntax for using Data.Table? As you can see it here, this is the typical way we're going to use Data.Table. Take, for example, Data.Table as our data frame, and as you know, in R, we use the brackets, and then we're going to discuss here our rows, followed by the columns, and as you can see at the end, we have by. That means that this third position, we're going to use it to group. But moreover, we're not just going to use the second position for selecting columns, but updating or doing something else, as we will see. Selecting data. Now, what is the difference with data frame? Well, the typical data frames, you know how to do it. As you mentioned, the first position for rows, second position for columns. However, check that there is a different syntax now, and we say, I want to select the name and age for columns, and you can see we're going to use the dot, followed by parentheses, and inside our columns, or desired columns. Well, moreover, we can use also selecting certain rows and listing our columns. Okay, but is our basic works? Yes, our basic methods still work. As you can see, we use the name of the columns using the vector, and the information is the same. As you can see, we will have the same results. Filtering, as you imagine, we're going to use certain conditions. In this case, I'm going to ask all the age equal to 25, but check here something that I'm not saying anything else about comma here followed by the take all the columns, like the typical R syntax. You can see age equal 25, and I say all the columns and all the data. Moreover, I'm not saying data $symbol age to call our information that is in this data frame, as typically we use in R when we don't attach our data frame. That's something important here. And if we want to filter in other way, check that the other functions works as well. We take people or employees with age between 25 and 35 as well. As you can compare here, we have people between 25 and 35 in the results. Now, a combination of both, check here that we have people older than 30 years old, and we select two columns as well. Now, it's important, as you can see here, name and age, and also using the other option, as we discussed previously, using list and department as well, going here with name. This other way, so you have multiple ways, whether it's with C or list or the dot option.